Okay, welcome to the stream, everyone. We should be live 1 minute early. Yeah, 1:59. But, I figured I might as well start things off now just in case we get anyone in from the YouTube stream to the locals tournament going on in the YGO from Zero Discord server. Linked in the description down below. But, yeah, this should be in X-Saber format, which is the format based around the October 2010 YCS Philadelphia. So, pretty cool format from what I've heard. It's a format that was not on Format Library for a period of time, and then people sort of were like, this should really be here because this is a good format from the time that we want to play. And so, people got it on Format Library, and it has its own page. And generally, when I'm going through these formats, I have a couple criteria for actually featuring it on the channel. One, if it has its own ban list and there's no format already for it, then I am fine just setting up a format for that. That's happened with things like Demise and with, Treasure and with all those DM formats that we did. But also, if it's on Format Library, I'll cover on the channel because Format Library is the main repository for these old formats online. And, okay, looks like we got one more. Let's go. So we're going to have a 6-player locals instead of a 5-player locals. So that should be nice. Okay. I'll give it until, I guess now. And then we'll get this thing started. And it looks like we're getting this thing started. I just need to do the things on my end to actually get it going using the retro bots. I need to make it unranked because we are doing this as a fun locals to allow people to test out their decks and see what's going on. PJ says X gonna give it to you. Yeah, I hope so. Because it would be. Oh no! Oh, okay. Okay, we got one more player. There's still time. Oh, okay, good. They got it. Okay, cool. Whew, okay, 7-player locals. Okay, good. Yeah, these. So one of the nice things about doing these locals for these formats is that there are so few events for these formats. So if people like them, they get to do them. So I want to make sure that everyone who actually wants to play in these formats, in these sort of events, even if they're not like the biggest events or the most important events, that they get to play in them. Just have fun, hopefully, So there we go. Okay, I'm just checking to see if there are any other last-minute signups. I will give it like 1 more minute, and then I'll start the event. But yeah, X gonna give it to you. I don't know the rest of the song. I've heard the whole song before. Cause it was like big in like the early 2010s, mid 2010s, sometime around there. But yeah, very fitting for the X-Saber locals. Yeah, I don't see any other last minute signups. 1 more signup would bring it to 8, which would actually be nice for like just the tournament, logistics. But if we don't get it, we don't get it, and it is what it is. We've got the locals over here. Yep, 7 players. That's what it's looking like right now. It looks like we're getting someone tagged in here who did vote for this time, so hopefully they're able to sign up. But we'll be getting this thing flowing very soon, folks. And while we wait for that to get started, I might as well give like an update on the channel. I know things have been very hectic lately. I know also the last couple times I've said that I will have more time to make videos. I haven't been able to make as many videos as I would like. I am still in grad school and stuff, but I'm transitioning work, so that means that I should actually have a fair bit more time now as I look for a library position, because that's what I'm going to school for. And so I should have more time to make videos, so that should be fun. So there should be more, like legitimately more videos coming out recently. Yeah, so look forward to that. We should be entering a new period of activity here. Okay, we're getting this thing started. And bam, there we go. We're going to shuffle the seeds because this is, again, a locals event, very casual. And there we go. We're getting this party started. So it seems like PJ has the bye here. We got Jovel versus Hanzo, Icarus versus Wagmuffin, and Prodigy versus Helio. Seems like Prod is already hosted for Helio. Are there any games going on currently? Looks like no. So we'll see when they get into it. But yeah, this should be fun. This is actually a bigger locals than we've gotten in the recent memory, I think. I mean, last locals was the smallest we've ever had. There was only one player, so I hopped in to join them and managed to win it. But yeah, we're happy to have you vibe here, PJ. Vibing never a bad thing. And also this gives you time to like see what's going on, what other people playing, stuff like that. Let's mute the dual sounds, or if you want the dual sounds, we can do it. It's just I haven't really done dual sounds on the channel. I find them a little bit distracting from the commentary, but I know that some people do like the dual sounds. So if people do want them, I can start including them in the videos. But from what I've heard, people generally are not preferring the dual sounds. But I'm willing to change. Yeah, PJ said no dual sounds. I feel similarly, but they're different strokes for different folks out there, and different people feel different ways about it. Helio is going to set 4, set 5. Oh boy, that's a lot of sets. Pass. Okay, that's scary if you're run from red. What are all those back row? Well, Duality is going to come down. Duality is in this format. First of many formats with Duality. And Duality will be revealing a book, a solemn, and a compulse. And they're going to take the book. I think book is flexible, so I think it makes sense to take the book. They're going to go for a Reaper here, try and rip that last card out of the hand. And if Helio tries to do something like, Dim Priz or things like that, then the book can stop it. Reaper's going to rip that last card out, and that will go through. Wow. Hitting a trap stun. Yeah, you probably don't necessarily need to keep that around when you've got 5 back row. But I really do wonder what Helio's on with all those back row there. MST on one of them. Is that going to hit the book? It did hit the book. So no information really known about the other back row, unfortunately. I mean, it could have been double book, and maybe no information would get revealed anyways. But Helio was maybe hoping to hit the other one, so that way they'd have a bit more info on what the other back row might be. But Ember's Blade's going to attack in here, poke in, get in for 1,000, and pass back. But that Reaper can just switch to defense and chill, or Run for Red could do something with it, like if they've got a Monarch, they can tribute it, although I don't think there are many Monarch decks running around at this time. If they've got like a tuner, they can go into a synchro play, although against 4 back row, that can be a bit awkward. I don't know. We'll have to see what Run from Red does. They're going to switch the Reaper to defense. That's also a valid option. Are they going to commit another monster as well to potentially get run over by the Ember's Blade? Are they going to just pass at this? Unclear right now. They're going to set another back row, and they're going to keep thinking. Honestly, this is probably enough, but I don't know what Run from Red's hand is like. I honestly don't know what Run from Red's playing. They're going to go for Necro Valley. Okay, they're on Gravekeepers. So might be a spy set, might be a recruiter set. We don't know right now, but unfortunately, Necro Valley is fairly decent against X-Sabers. Unfortunately for Helio, that is, because it shuts off like Gothams Ecall, it shuts off Fall Troll, So it can be a bit annoying. Now, X-Sabers do have a way in deck to actually deal with Necro Valley in the form of Hyunlei if they can get into that. But that's a big if they can get into that, because things like Warning exist. Their Gravekeepers are a very back row focused deck, and so if they're able to stop the Hyunlei, then that can be a bit awkward. But it seems like it's just sort of like draw pass. Both players are sort of just like, well, I can't really progress things further in a way that I want to, and so I'm just going to keep passing back. It looks like Run Format's going to set another as well. So we're getting fairly stacked backer on either side of things. Now, if Helio can activate something like a Trap Stun to insulate a Hyunlei play, that would be pretty good. I'm pretty sure the main level 3 that X-Sabers do play is like Emmer's Blade. No, that's Emmer's Blade. Not Emmer's Blade. What's it called? The one... Yeah, that one. Full Knight. Yeah. Full Knight will do it. They're going to summon that out. If they've got a Trap Stun, I know that people like to save Trap Stun for like when the opponent activated traps, and then it's like, oh, I get value here. I feel like if you have Trap Stun, it's often good just to fire it preemptively, because then it shows off like Warning and stuff. It doesn't stop things like Chainables like Compulse. So if they've got Compulse, then it's like, ah, darn, I messed up my chance. But honestly, like, you can't chain Trap Stun to a Warning. So like that's a tricky thing there, right? And if there is a Warning, which there, may be, it's not an unlikely possibility that there's a Warning back there. Then things can go a bit south. But we'll have to see what Helio does. I'm also not the most, practiced duelist in a format like this, so I could very well be wrong as well. But Hyunlei is going to come down. Oppression's going to get flipped. Now, that can be Trap Stunned if they've got it. Do they have a Trap Stun, though? If they got a Trap Stun, they kind of have to go for it. Yeah, there's the Trap Stun. That's going to get Solemned. Is there a Solemn in Helio's backer as well? There is indeed a Solemn. Okay, so yeah, if you got the Solemn, it makes sense not to hold the Trap Stun. And Run Format just going to scoop it up. Wow. I don't know if that was necessary to scoop there. Depend on what the set is, of course. But they didn't have a way to deal with the Reaper. If the set was a Spy, you can go into something else. Like, I don't know. I feel like that was a very good spot for Helio to be in for sure, but it's not the end of the game for Run Format. Like, Gravekeeper is a very grindy deck. I feel like they could have potentially ground that out to a different conclusion. But, they're just like, yeah, I don't want to play this game anymore. I guess we're going to go on to game 2. And speaking of game 2, we got Wagamuffin versus Odyssey Icaros. Wagamuffin won game 1, it seems. So we're going to be going into game 2. And let's see what these duelists are playing. Looks like Card Trooper going to come down, mill 3. So it seems like Icaros is on maybe a Lightsworn quick draw, like maybe just quick draw dandy, honestly, because those decks often do play like Lightsworn engines in them. But yeah, very good start. The mills weren't the best here, but like still, you got Card Trooper, so that's a bit annoying for Wagamuffin to deal with. Wagamuffin gonna summon out a Ryo here. Pretty good card. Might be on a bit more of a stun deck. And they're going to attack into that Trooper. Now, the Trooper will still draw under Ryo. It's just searchers can't go through. But Icaros might have a way to stop that. They're going to book down the Ryo. Very interesting. Now, this will permit searches from both players, so maybe Icaros has some searching power here. Or maybe they just want to run over to the Ryo next turn with the Trooper. I'm going to set 2 back row there. Pass back to Icaros. And yeah, as PJ said, Icaros is one of the best combo players in the community. One of the best just players of 5Ds and post 5Ds formats just in general, I think, in the retro community. So yeah, very, very good player. And important note there. Yeah, as PJ says, had a lot of tops and wins in format 2010 and beyond. And, this is sort of the era where combo decks start becoming a lot more viable and a lot more of a thing. Now, I always mention that when it comes to the history of Yu-Gi-Oh, people like to sort of paint this sort of dichotomy of like, the game was all slow, grindy formats until like the Fire Nation attacked and, synchros came out and, and then combos started popping off and the snowball started, right? Which, I think through our own exploration of these formats is, borne out to be not really that true, where you do have some combo formats in the DM period, in the GX period. Science 50K, that's a big combo deck, even though I personally don't think it's necessarily the best. It is a combo deck that people can play. And if you want to play the, in my opinion, less fragile version of that deck, you also have Reason Gate Turbo, which, if you're familiar with GOAT, you know about that deck, and that is very much a combo-oriented deck, even though, again, you could argue there that it's not the best deck in the format. You're still seeing these combo decks arise in the dual monsters period, and of course, basically whenever those decks would arise, then the ban list would come, tamp them down, and revert things to a grindier state. And at least that was the goal, it seemed, with what a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Design philosophy was going for at the time. But even then, you got, these formats that broke containment in terms of combo, right? Like Airblade format, right? That is a very combo-oriented deck, and, it's very, very good. Now, in exploration of Airblade format, I didn't really explore it too much on the channel, but we did have an Airblade Locals a little bit ago, and Airblade actually didn't win, so maybe it's not even the best deck in that format, although I do think it is. I think it's just like, a very good player was playing a deck very well, and, Airblade isn't necessarily infallible. It can lose games, so yeah, I don't know. If we explored it further, maybe it would turn out that it actually is the best deck, but either way, my point is that, like, you get these combo formats before people think of combo formats arising, and you do get grindier formats later on as well, which I think is important to note, that, like, the time period after synchros and beyond, like, a lot of people just will not even touch them with a 10-foot pole because they're like, oh, it's not my pace of play, not my style of play. But you do have more grindier formats later on. Now, they do include mechanics a lot of the times that some people don't like. Some people don't like Xyz summons, some people don't like pendulums, some people don't like links, whatever you have. But if you're just talking about pure pace of play and, pure like back and forthness, right, you do have formats later on as well that do meet those standards. I'm not saying this because I'm saying that, like, everyone should be forced to play these formats if they like the grindier stuff, or they should be forced to play the earlier combo formats if they like those. I'm just saying, there's a lot out there, and so keeping an open mind about different formats from different eras is a good thing, because you might find some that you may enjoy. But looks like an Avarice is going to come down here. Avarice is very good. Push the whole graveyard back, though, so if there is a Debris, Debris is not really going to be the best normal summon right now. But I still think this is a good situation for Icarus to be in. Now, the elephant in the room is that their life points are much less than Wagamuffin's, which is important to note, especially when you get down to below half life points. So that does mean that they might have to play a little bit more carefully, or they might have to play a little bit more aggressively if they feel that they just have to go for this or else they lose. But they are going to attack into the card trooper, give Wagamuffin another draw there, and then set one. Are they going to set another, or are they going to leave it at that? Looks like they're going to leave it at that, and they're going to pass back to Wagamuffin here. So what will Wagamuffin do in the face of that trooper and 2 back row? That's the question. Wagamuffin also a very good duelist as well. I think it's important to note, Icarus very, very good, but Wagamuffin's no slouch. They've won a lot of these locals, and they've done some really good stuff. They actually won the recent Star Strike format tournament that we held on the YGO from Zero Discord server, and so they are very good as well. I think it's important to note that. The Solemn's going to come down on the Debris, which is going to be pretty rough for Wagamuffin here. Yeah, as PJ said, there is a very nice deck variety here. I feel like Icarus is probably playing some level of plant synchro. I mean, they do have quick draw, so like Edison Brain would think like, oh, quick draw dandy, right? But if you have more of the plant options as well, is it a plant deck that's splashing in a quick draw, or is it a quick draw deck that's splashing in the plants? I don't know. And I think oftentimes those sorts of labels can get a bit too confining for their own good. So I don't know. I'm keeping an open mind. PJ says only one X-Saber player, I think, which is very interesting. Yeah, it doesn't often happen here. But we did see Helio on X-Sabers, and seemed like it's working out pretty well for them. If you look at the historical representation for some of the events in this format, you do see Plant Synchro and X-Sabers sort of at the top. So I'm curious to see what revisiting this format will do for the strategies in question. Anyway, the Spore activation is going to happen here. Banishing a Lone Fire to bring that thing out in attack mode. And no TT has been used. Raiko is going to be summoned out now. And now Icarus has to think if Wagamon goes into like a Brio and that's a battle trap, and that's the end of the game. But I mean, unless there's the Veiler in hand, which I don't know if they'd be playing Veiler. But yeah, either way here, if they got something, they got to do it. You know, it's getting a bit too late. Book here, yes, Book I think is very good. Booking down the Spore, you can't book down the Raikou really, because then you get that online, right? But I think booking down the Spore is very good, and Wagamon has no back row there, so they are a bit vulnerable. So Icarus can now do stuff here if they've got it. I'm very curious what the thinking about the book was, you know, because they go into, like, maybe they wanted to bait out the Brio, so it's like, yeah, go into the Brio, pitch your thing, and then I'll chain book to it and set it down, and you lose a card. But I think, I mean, honestly, like, I don't know. I think this is probably fine. Yeah, the card drew will mill for cost. I think this is probably best. Like, even if they did the Brio play, I think that this would be the worthwhile maneuver. Anyways, they're going to debris in, attack into the Spore, and then attack over the Trooper there. You had to attack over the Spore with debris because Cartridge did not gain the attack since its effect is negated by Debris Dragon, even though the cost of it can still go through. So they're going to attack into the Raikou and take... no, it should be 200 because they attacked him with the Trooper. Yeah. But last card in hand, Trag, it's very interesting. I guess they're just like, yeah, you know, when else are they going to bring this out? And if they do have like a Monarch or something, then that's very good. So I guess this does make some sense. It's just very awkward because that's a 600 attack Trag. Now, Icarus could go into, I mean, they probably should go into a 7 here. Oh, actually, they can go to an 8 if they send Dandy. Yep, there's the Dandy. And that's going to allow them to go into like a Stardust or a Scrap. Maybe the Scrap Dragon, honestly, is for the best because then you can actually pop the Trag, shut off a Monarch if it comes down. And they are indeed going to do that. So they're going to pop the Trag there, pass back. And will Wagmuffin be able to mount an offensive here? Kind of awkward for them. They've used up Spore. It's the only graveyard effect they have right now. But if they do have like a Chaos Orc, then Chaos Orc can come down, banish. Avarice is going to be quite good here if there's no DD Crow from Icarus, and it looks like there will not be. Yeah, one DD Crow already engraved. We don't know if they're playing more, but that can potentially get Wagmuffin back into this game here. I'll have to see what they draw. But very intense games. It really could go either way here. Okay, looks like Helios Strider won against Prada here. So, unfortunately, Gravekeeper is not able to take the game. But yeah, there goes the Avarice. Draw 2, leaving the Spore, Dandy, and Caius in grave there. Looks like Wagmuffin just setting 2, passing. Oof. Not what you want to see if you're Wagmuffin, but that back row might be something good. Now, Icarus could pop with Scrap, which they might be doing here. They are indeed going to pop their back row and also one of Wagmuffin's. Just hope to hit something good. And they're going to hit a Starlight Road. So not ideal, but they did, you know, get rid of a warning, which is just, you know, they can't use warning, so might as well. And there's the Mirror Force, and that will deal with the Scrap Dragon. So they missed the 50-50. Will it cause them to lose the game here? Looks like not yet, if that is the case. Wagmuffin drawing for turn. Icarus setting 1, passing back. Very intense games here. Ryo is coming down. Will that go through uncontested? It looks like that will be fine for Icarus. And there goes the Ryo. Yeah, came down to the 50-50, really. Sometimes it does. But yeah, very intense games there. And yeah, just a Crow, so that's not going to do much. Yeah, very cool. I want to see Jovel versus Hanzo before that wraps up. Because I feel like it'll be cool to see what other people are on. Seems like Hanzo is on Black Wings and Jovel is on a maybe Twilight Sworn deck. Maybe just plants that we're just seeing the engine parts of here. But still very interesting decks. Black Wings won game 1, it looks like. And Black Wings are still very good in this format. You know, Black Wings are sort of the deck that will not die in 5D's formats because, you know, they are very fast. They can do a lot of combo plays. And yeah, they're very good. Warning, get met with a Judgment, and that'll be the end of the game there, unfortunately. Looks like Dutch Shooting Dad were the last 2. So yeah, probably a Twilight Sworn build. Generally, plant decks don't play Dad because they don't have enough darks for it. But yeah, very, very cool stuff here. And they're going to be moving on as well. So I'm glad we got to see a little bit of that, even though, it wasn't too exciting at the very end there, because we came in at the very end. But we should be having the next games starting soon. If we look at the tournament here, we see it's PJ versus Hanzo and Wagman versus Helio. So I'm going to prioritize the PJ versus Hanzo game because we haven't seen what PJ's playing. PJ says it's Zombie Sworn. Saw the Zombie Master earlier. Okay, very cool stuff. Yeah, Zombie Sworn is very neat. It's always cool to see a game like that. People trying out new lists that weren't necessarily as popular at the time. Although I think Zombie Swarm was something that people were always playing at the time, but like it didn't receive too much like mass tournament success at the time. So, and that's really like how we can judge it based on, statistics, right? We don't really have records from every locals. We have records from the big tournaments. So when I say a deck was majorly played at the time, I'm mainly referring to big tournaments, which I acknowledge is different from the local scene, but that's just what I have to judge by, And okay, looks like Helio setting 4, playing around the Mech Knight column here. Very smart. Or actually, no, it's not playing around the Mech Knight column because they could bring on Mech Knight to this zone. So I don't know. No, there are no Mech Knights in this format. But yeah, that's a later thing. Raiko is going to get flipped up and try and pop a back row. It's going to try and hit this one. What's it going to be? Warning. Warning's coming down. So stopping that. Raiko from milling, stopping from popping. So yeah. And also preserving the back row here. Trooper coming down as well. Will that be fine? And they will mill 3. 1, 2, 3. Not the best mills, but still 1900 attacking in. That will need to go through. Helio already down half their life. MST hitting a back row here, and it's going to hit a bottomless. Okay, so Helio, I think, can be in a pretty good position here, depending on what the other back row is. Boggart Knight, so good thing they hit the bottomless. But the warning's going to come down. At least that does cost 2,000 of Wagman's life here. But Helio thinking they're going to solemn that and prevent that from going through. So Helio is very low in life. They still have enough to activate a warning, though. Oh, they don't have a... Interesting. They don't have an X-Saber special summon out. That is neat. I don't know if I would have preserved the Boggart Knight in that case with the Solemn. I thought they were going to go for an X-Saber play. But if you're just doing it for that, I don't know if that's worth it, You're taking 1900 next turn from the Trooper, right? But like, man, that's... Yeah, I don't know. But I always like to point out that I am commentating these without full information. So I don't know what Helio's got. I don't know what Wagmuffin's got. I'm just judging based on what I see. And I'm not infallible. I am very fallible. I get things wrong a fair amount of the time. Hopefully not enough that like it colors my commentary. But I do think that it's important to note that just because I say something doesn't mean it's necessarily true, 100% accurate, right? But that's just my take on the game that I'm seeing right now. There's Pashul, so they actually can go into a... Oh, okay, false roll. Okay, things are popping off here. Going into a 6. Hyunlight doesn't really do anything, but you can just go into Goyo if you want to. Funnily enough, this is one of the few decks that can actually make Goyo if we use the poster errata. We don't use the poster errata. We use the original text of the card, which allows it to be made with any 2 monsters, as long as they add up to level 6. But, it is funny that X-Sabers would have that advantage if this was like a time travel sort of format, right? Bryo's going to come down, so Bryo can pitch bounce. So that's actually pretty good. We know that Trag is gone, so Gores is a consideration. Gores is, speaking of Gores, but yeah, Helio's a bit too low life to really make that Gores like worth it entirely. Not using the false roll effect yet is interesting. I think they're maybe waiting to see if a Gores does come down. Because if Gores does come down, then you can bring back the Pashul and then make an 8, like Scrap Dragon and Pop. But yeah, that's game on board, so that does it either way there. And very good game 1. So very cool stuff there. Let's check out the other game going on, which is PJ versus Hanzo there. PJ on a Gen X Undyne deck. Very interesting. So this is like... Basically, Gen X Undyne is a card that gets played in certain combo decks later on that, want to send Waters to Grave. So you play the 1 Gen X Controller brick to set that up. and they're going to send a Fishborg Blaster. So Fishborg Blaster can pitch, bring back, go into an armory room potentially, or if PJ has some other plays they can make, then things get pretty hairy pretty quick here. Now, Hanzo does have 4 back row, which is something to worry about, but I'm curious to see where PJ goes with this. If they pitch something like a... Now, the awkward thing is that if they pitch something like Dandy, Fishborg can't synchro with materials that are not water, so you can't use those tokens, right? But if there's something like a Swap Frog as well, then that can go into a 6, so that's pretty good. Yeah. I think this is a very interesting position to be in. I'm curious where PJ goes with it. Now, a risk that we have to consider is not only like something like a Warning again or a Solemn. We also have to consider an Icarus attack. Oh, just the end of the turn. Okay, so it seems like they're waiting for next turn. Blackwings might not give them the opportunity to wait for next turn, though. Duality, though, will slow their pace a little bit. They can't special. Oh, man, I'm sure they wanted to special with that Shura being revealed there. They're going to take the Shura anyways, which I think makes sense. It's a big body that's kind of annoying to deal with. And even if it can't special this turn, it can still get in for some damage, you know. So, yeah, they're going to bring that out. And then they're going to go into the battle phase. I would attack your Armed Wing over the Undyne. And, yeah, Shura directly because it mitigates a Gore's play. And the Shura can't get its effect anyways because of Duality. So, this makes sense to me. Attacking in 411, Shura directly 418. And that will go through. Gores is indeed in the hand, so Hanzo getting rewarded for the play there, although it is awkward because that Gores is 2,700. Now, again, there could be an Icarus attack in the back row, which could cause problems for PJ, especially because now it's just live, right? You can just pop the board there, and that's kind of annoying. But we'll have to see what they're able to do into this board. Now, they could just attack Gores into the Arm Wing if they wanted to. Just try and clear it, or into the Shura. But you probably attack in the Arm Wing because you don't want... oh, you can't do Fishborg. No, you can't do Fishborg. Can't do Fishborg. Oh, yeah. There they go. They realized it. Yeah, you need a level 3 or lower water to use Fishborg. So, yeah. Now, if they summon that out, they can just do it, right? And that's fine. But it's a bit tricky here. Also... I think it's important to note, Fishborg is very risky here, because Fishborg with Arm Wing up is just lethal on board for Hanzo, right? Because they can attack over the Fishborg and gain 500 attack if it's in defense, and then get him for lethal. They're going to tribute a Mobius, try and pop some back row here. And let's see if they hit good ones. Icarus attack is going to get chained. They're going to tribute the Shura, pop the Gores, and the Mobius. And that might be the end of the game there. Yep, that's the end of the game. And, yeah. So, interesting deck from PJ. I'm curious what it looks like when everything comes together. Unfortunately, like, Fishborg, I think the only shell that really works for it in this format is, like, a, you know, Frog deck. Because, you know, that has enough level 3 to lower waters that you can consistently bring back the Fishborg and do stuff with it. Otherwise, you get into awkward spots where, like, you can't synchro with the Dandy tokens with Fishborg. They need to have water stuff there. So, yeah, I don't know. Mirror Force will deal with the Titanial here. So, it seems like Helio is in a good spot. Let's see. Dark Soul and Faltrol Engrave. Minecon on the Airbellum. That's a bit scary. That being said, I mean, level 5s are not the most scary things in this format, but it can be something like a Catastrophe, which is kind of annoying to deal with. Could be an Android if they want more life, although I would lean towards probably Catastrophe. I don't even know if decks really play Android at this time, or if the extra deck space is just a little bit too tight. But yeah, there's the Catastrophe coming down. Just being a body that Helio has to figure out some way to deal with. Yeah. Prada says that they somehow top forward GKs with recruiterless GKs for Saber format. That's pretty impressive. But yeah, it just didn't work out with this locals. So yeah, I didn't realize that recruiter wasn't even out yet in this format. I saw you playing the deck and I was like, oh, that's probably a recruiter deck. But yeah, E-Call is coming down. So they can target the Dark Soul and the Airbellum. You can't actually do the false roll because that must be summoned from your hand, not must first be. But this is threatening something pretty good. I mean, you can go into an 8 Dark, which can beat over the Catastor. You could go into a Catastor yourself if you really wanted to, but it makes sense to just go into an 8 because then the Dark Soul will trigger. Yeah, no false roll in hand, though. Important to note. Or yeah, I guess you got to go into a 6 first, and then you can go into the 8 if you want to. But yeah, they're going to pitch a True Nade, bounce that Catastor. Yeah, I've heard that as well, Prada. Prada mentions that they don't think that X-Sabers are as set as Tier 1 as people thought previously. I've heard that as well. I think that X-Sabers are still like... Wait, why End Phase? Do they not have an 8? They don't have any 8 Dark? Maybe their back row is just something very good, but like, I don't know. I feel like if I was them, I mean, Bryo's good, right? But like, I would just synchro off and then attack over the Catastor, right? This means that they might not be playing Colossal. They might not be playing Scrap Dragon, because you can also go into Scrap Dragon, pop back row, pop Catastor, and do stuff. Very interesting. I mean, to me, this reads like their back row is just cracked, right? Or this back row can deal with Catastor. But this is just too much of a risk for me. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'd do this. They're going to go for Reborn and target the Titanial. DD Crow on the Titanial will stop that at least. But, yeah. Yeah, Prada says I think they share it with other decks, yeah. And I think that is what I've heard as well. I'm excited to actually get to this format after Lightsworn, or it'll be after Frog. So, Lightsworn, Frog, then this. But I'm excited to dive into it because I've heard people talking up this format. I've heard people saying it's a goated 5Ds format. And I'm curious to see about that because I feel like 5Ds has been very lackluster. Now, I haven't had as much time to put into 5Ds as I had to put into DM and GX, unfortunately, which is on me. But yeah, I'm just, unless it's something I'm not thinking of. Like, I'm just perplexed. I don't know. I'm just, yeah, I don't know. I'm perplexed. Like, what's in their extra deck? Is it all just 6s? No 8s or something? Or that's just so bizarre to me. Like, I don't know. Yeah, now that they're just so, oh wow, it's like I'm so confused. That's probably an Emmer's Blade set. But yeah, I think Wagmuffin's got this game too. I really feel like, again, I don't know what's in their extra deck. Maybe they forgot that Pashul was a tuner. I feel like you wouldn't forget that though if you're playing X-Sabers. Yeah, I don't know. That's very interesting. Now they might still be in it because Wagmuffin attacked to the Emmer's Blade with the Trooper, as opposed to attacking in to the Emmer's Blade with the Catastor and preventing it from searching. Which I feel like was probably not the move. I mean, I get the idea of it, right? Because only the Catastor can clear the Pashul. But at least, like, attack in to the Emmer's Blade first, I guess, if you're doing this. Because then you can decide Catastor attacking into it, potentially, I guess. But I guess that Fulham Knight can stop the attack if they go into that. So, yeah, I guess that this ordering made sense, but I still maybe would have attacked into the Emmer's Blade first with the Catastor, and then just left the Pashul. Because Emmer's Blade just gets them any X-Saber they want. Whereas, yeah, if they wanted to go into Pashul off Emmer's Blade, they could have, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think Wagmuffin still has this, right? I mean, X-Sabers can pop off, right? But, like, I do think that Wagmuffin is in such a good position that they probably still have it. But I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Now, also, it's important to note that Fulham Knight can walk over a token and bring back an activity from grave if it connects, right? Which is important to note because a trap stun here, preemptive trap stun. I'm not sure the preemptive trap stun was necessary in this situation unless they're going for a synchro play in main 1. because there are no like battle counter traps except for like negate attack, which no one's running, right? Now you could argue that warning could stop this. So I guess you do it for the warning because this is an attack effective spell summon. So yeah, I guess preemptive traps doesn't make sense there. We've seen no warnings and a Muffin yet. So yeah, they go for Full Helm Knight. I don't know what you bring back. Just like Dark Soul? Hammer's Blade? Probably just Dark Soul, right? Because then you go... If you've got another Bryo... Actually, I don't know if Bryo is limited or not in this format, but you can go into a 6 at least. Not sure what 6 is really useful here. Maybe Hyunlai just to pop the back row and just, you know, get rid of it for future turns. If they have a Fall Troll in hand, this can maybe open up some avenues if you bring back the Dark Soul and then special summon out Fall Troll, and then you can really start getting off to the races. But yeah, that Catastrophe is a problem no matter what you bring out. Yeah, Fall Troll or Dark Soul is going to come out. I don't know why they didn't just attack into the token there. I guess they want to keep the Full Helm Knight to negate the attack of the Catastrophe. Okay, that makes some sense. It's just kind of an awkward spot for Helio to be in. Again, it just comes down to that the level 8 Synchro Summon that they didn't do. I'm trying to think how packed their extra deck would have to be to not have like an 8 that could deal with it, like a Scrap Dragon or like a Colossal Fighter. I feel like they had to have. I think it was just a misplay, but Violation Journal says, I don't understand why people say Dark Souls is so difficult to beat whenever it only has 100 attack and defense. I think the issue is that it replaces itself, right? So you have to just keep dealing with what it takes out. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that. Because it... I'm just... I don't know why... I'm just very confused. Darkhold, very good here. Road is going to come down. Is that going to get negated by Helio? If they've got a warning, that will do it. If they've got, you know, a trap stun, that will do it. There are a couple things that do it here. That will go through. Okay. Yeah, I'm just confused. I mean, I don't know why no negation on the Card Trooper attack. I don't know. It's just like, yes, the Catastrophe can attack in after, but like, you know, you might as well. Like, I don't know. Catastrophe coming down of their own. So they can attack in to the Stardust, get rid of that. But the Stardust is going to use its effect to stop the Catastrophe. I'm just very bamboozled. Oh, the Catastrophe did attack first. Okay, I missed that. Okay, so yeah, I guess I'm not... Okay, that makes sense. That aligns with my what I'd expect there. Yeah, so this way at least Wagman gets in for damage, right? Because otherwise, they wouldn't be able to get in for damage. But they're going to search for the Full Helm Knight there. Will it matter? Probably not. But we'll see. Yeah, Stardust can't come back in end phase because of Road. Special summoning it incorrectly. Or not properly. Improperly, that's the word. So yeah, I guess I'm being... I guess I'm just seeing things. I'm seeing ghosts because of the earlier level 8 play there, or not lack of play there. But yeah, again, I am very fallible too, so it happens, right? And I'm not under pressure of being in an event, right? And you know, being on stream playing, right? That adds pressure. So I'm not trying to judge here. Because it is tough. But yeah, 1900 and 2200. Helio drawing for turn. They can do the Full Helm Knight play again, just attacking in to the token, then you know, trying to bring back an X-Saber. It's kind of tricky. We don't know what the last back row is there for Helio. Okay, there's Full Helm Knight, and they can attack into the token. This makes sense to leave the token out when they attacked in one of the tokens earlier. So that way, if you do more Full Helm Knight plays, you can do that. Probably bring back Dark Soul again, if I had to guess. I guess no, yeah, probably just Dark Soul. Oh, Full Helm Knight again. Okay, interesting. So that's going to attack into Spore. Okay, bring out another thing. Okay, now we're able to get some stuff going here potentially. Can't go into Mistworm, unfortunately. That is a downside here. You can go into a level 9. Can't go into Mistworm because that needs 2 non-tuners to go into. But if they go into, like, Emmer's Blade attack over Trooper, then that is kind of annoying for Wagman to deal with here, because the Full Helm Knights can just negate the attacks, right? So, okay, this is actually, Helio's stabilizing a bit, Wagman does draw a card there, so they do have a fair amount of cards in play, but Helio might be back into this to some degree. And we'll have to see if Wagman's able to counteract this board somehow. They've gone through Dark Hole, so they can't Dark Hole it. If they can go into an 8, then they could like a Scrap Dragon, they could pop one. But the only banish off Spore is a 3, so you bring back as a level 4. Okay, it looks like Hanzo won in the game against PJ. So the finals will be Blackwing versus whoever wins this one. So it'll be either Blackwings versus X-Sabers, Blackwings versus Plant Synchro. Keep in mind, this is still game 2, I believe. Yeah, it's still game 2. So there's still a lot of match left in the tank. Debris coming down. Debris could be very good here. What are they going to go for? Target the Dandy. Yeah, very good card to bring back here. It's going to be fine by Helio. So there might be a Black Rose just coming down, blowing up the board. Could also just be AFD get 2 tokens, eat through the Full Helm Knight negates. Foolish. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Sending a... Actually, is there another Dandy? I don't think there are 3 Dandies in this format, so... maybe sending Bulb? Bulb could be good. Bulb could actually be very good here. Or is Bulb out? Bulb might not be out. Let me see. Glow Up Bulb. Yeah, it sent a Crow, so unfortunate. Glow Up Bulb comes out in Starstrike Blast, so yeah, I don't think it's out yet. Because Starstrike Blast is the format after this one, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So yeah, no Bulb. Dandy's gone. So I think a slight misplay from Wagmuffin. They probably expected that they had a Dandy or that they had something else, but if you're Helio, you're probably not too upset about this. Those Full Helm Knights got a fair bit of value there. Leaving Wagmuffin with 2 tokens now. That being said, Wagmuffin can go into a 6 very easily off Spore. MST the back row, so that's going to be pretty rough. Hitting a book, can't be used there. Yeah, Debris as well, so that should be probably the end of the game. Going into the Dandy here, and then you can go into an 8. Like, if Red Dragon Archfiend is in the deck, then you can go into that. They're just going to go into Scrap Dragon, though. But yeah, I was thinking, like, if Red Dragon Archfiend in the deck, you can go into just summon out Spore and then attack in. But yeah, I was thinking that too, Gerbil, where, like, you have Spore in the tokens for more damage, but I guess they just wanted to sit on it for a turn so they could do this play. So yeah, you bring back Spore, and then you sync off into an Android, and then attack in for what is likely going to be lethal. There could be a Gores or a Trag, but yeah, that's going to be the end of the game. I think Helio could have won that one, though. I think Helio could have won that if they'd gone into an 8 the previous or the earlier turn. I think it just slipped their mind maybe, or maybe the extra deck space is just that tight. But yeah, I mean, I assume they're playing Stardust, right? Stardust would have done that. But yeah, I think you're probably right, Gerbil. I'm just greedy. I'm a greedy guy. If I see the option to get in a ton of damage, I'll go for it. But yeah, you're definitely right that keeping the tokens is better play, because then you can go into scrap. So you can potentially pop a Gores if that comes down later. Yeah, I think the risk is like if there's Full Helm Knight. If there's Full Helm Knight, then, if they draw into that, which would have to be their third Full Helm Knight, I'm pretty sure. If they draw into that, then attack in, then they get into a Dark Souls well, go into a 6 and sit on that, get a search at the end of the turn, then that's kind of awkward. But yeah, I definitely think that you're right, where it's better to keep the tokens. But yeah, I think it's fine either way. Wagman was kind of in the driver's seat there in the end, and Helio was just trying to hold on. Anywho, let's see how this one goes here. Set 1, set 2, and pass back. Not a bad start for X-Sabers, I will say. Because they generally play some pretty good back row. Lone Fire coming down, though. So is that going to be fine? Is it not going to be fine? That will be fine. It's going to use the effect. Will that get warninged? It will get warninged there. So, yeah, I think that makes sense. And looks like Wagmum setting 1, passing back. Reinforced Truth coming down. Okay, that's pretty good. Gets out the Pashul, which can then go into a synchro play next turn. So, yeah, pretty good start for Helio here. MST on the back row there. It's going to be a Dust Tornado, which is not going to get used here. Although they could have potentially done Dust Tornado set 1, but that wouldn't really do anything because it just opens them up to like a Hyunlei or something. That card can't be activated the turn is set. So yeah, does Helio have a further play? They got Boggart Knight, which they actually can use the effect of if that goes through. And it looks like it will go through for an Emmer's Blade here. Now, they do have 9 levels on field there if they want to go for the Gothams. Unfortunately, they don't really have anything to tribute for Gothams except for Gothams itself, which is not really a good trade. But they could just poke in here for some damage. It looks like they're going to go into a 6, though. What 6 are they going into? Is it going to be the Brio? Is it going to be a Goyo? What's it going to be? Looks like it's going to be nothing right now. So, yeah, it seems like they're reconsidering that play. Okay, wrong levels, yeah. Going into a 5, though. They're going to go for a Catastor. Okay, not a bad one. I might have attacked in with Emmer's Blade and Boggart Knight, and then saved a synchro play for main phase 2, just in case there was a Gores that came down. But, yeah. Jan Kropacek, sorry if I mispronounced that. So I've already played Blackwing versus Wagmuffin and his plants in other formats. I want to play against Sabers. Okay, so it seems like they're Hanzo. And, yeah, I mean, I think Sabers is in a good spot this game. I think you very well might be playing against Sabers here. So I'm rooting for that. But we'll have to see. Wagmuffin does have 5 cards. So those 5 cards can potentially give them a way to deal with this. But Helio's got the more commanding board. Boggart Knight's just sort of a body, but Catastor can be very annoying to deal with, as we saw last game. So will they be able to do it, is the question. Also, it seems like Wagmuffin did not have the best back row. I mean, they could have anticipated like a Dust Tornado or an MST from Helio. So maybe they were just setting that to sort of bait it out. But I feel like if you've got something like Warning, for instance, you'd set that instead. So, yeah, Wagmuffin might not have the most defense. It might just be, them trying to go for as much offense as they can get in here. We can go for Foolish, and that will be fine. So they can Foolish probably a Dandy, I would assume. It seems like DB is having DB issues here. But yeah, probably a Dandy, I would guess. There are some other things they can do if they want to do a different, sort of debris play. Not that that's your reason to do that, but yeah, Dandy is going to come down here. Actually, yeah, even if you want to do a different debris play, like sending a level 2 or something, like you've got 2 levels here in the token, so it doesn't make sense to not send Dandy. Anywho, debris is going to bring back that Dandy, and now they can go into a level 8 like Scrap Dragon, pop the Catastor, and potentially try running over the Boggart Knight. So that would be a good play. They could just go Black Rose, wipe the board if they wanted to. That's also a good play. But it looks like they are going to go for the Scrap Dragon play here instead, which I think is fine. Scrap Dragon also plays around Road. But yeah, Helio asking about priority. Yeah, and they are going to use priority there. So they're going to pop a token in the caster. And I don't know if this gets like TT'd or something, and the tokens will still come down from the day after. So there's no point to TT this. You just TT the tokens that come down. But yeah, there goes 2 tokens there. And now the Scrap Dragon can attack into the Boggart Knight. Will there be a Gotham's E-Call to at least get some things back from the grave for next turn? That is a reasonable question. Of course, you know, there's attack replay, so they can attack into something else instead. But if there is E-Call there, I think you just do it. Because you'll bring back Pashul and Ember's Blade, and it's like either way, you're forcing your opponent to attack in the Boggart Knight either way, but you get 2 guys that are very annoying for them to deal with. You can crash the Ember's Blade into the Scrap Dragon, bring out Fulham Knight, attack into a token, bring back the Boggart Knight. It should be -9. Oh yeah, they lost 100 already. So yeah, I think this means that the set is not E-Call. But now the shoe's on the other foot here. Helio is in a bit of a tough spot. Yeah, I don't know what to go into. They're just going to set 1. That's not good with a Scrap Dragon up, because Scrap Dragon just pop it. I mean, it might be a Dark Soul, so it's something that you're not afraid of getting popped anyways, but it does not bode well here. Scrap Dragon pop the monster, pop the Pashul, so it's a bit rough. And now the Scrap Dragon's attacking for 28, over half of Helio's life. Book is going to go in and book that down. Will it be enough? I don't know. Kind of just hoping that they get a good card next turn is the thing here. Okay, they're setting 1. That's not going to do it. Either with a Raikou or with the Scrap Dragon. Yeah, so it seems like Plants will be in the finals. Sorry, Jan, or Jan, or whichever pronunciation it is. Sorry if I mispronounced. But yeah, it looks like Plants are going to win this one. I mean, there are some worlds where they don't, but it's very hard to see that path from this position. Spore coming down. So, yeah, flipping up a Raikou as well. So you can go to Armory Arm here if you want to. But I mean, at this point, it's just like, you know, you're so far ahead. It's just like, yeah. Raikou popping the Spore, so that way Spore can get its effect to come back. This is kind of unnecessary, because they could have just popped the monster and then got into Armory Arm, and then brought back Spore afterwards to sync off with the Armory Arm, unless they want specifically to go into Black Rose to switch the defense position monster to attack, to dodge around Gores specifically. But yeah, I guess they're going Android, and then Scrap Dragon, pop Raikou, pop the set. I don't really think that was necessary. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. And now if there is a Gores, well, I guess Scrap Dragon runs over Gores anyways, but yeah. I assume in defense, right? It's got to be in defense. Okay, or not. Yeah, so they take 100 here. And the token is a 7. So I think you can go into... Actually, does Gotham's need X-Sabers for materials as well? I forget. Either way here, it's going to be rough. They're going to just run the token into the Scrap Dragon and maybe drop track. I mean, I don't know. I think they're just admitting defeat. Or, oh, on declaration, maybe Book of Moon. Book of Moon, okay. So that does get them back into it a little bit. But it is still not ideal. Yeah, this is not looking the best. The one nice thing is that the Spore has used up its activation here. So that's good. But Yeah, I think Wyman could play that last turn better to go for lethal. Again, either through Black Rose switch the monster to attack, or through just going armor arm into an 8 and doing stuff with that. But I mean, either way, it's probably fine. Magman probably still wins this. I mean, they might not, though. They're just going to go battle, attack, and crash. Seems like that's the end of their turn. Okay, so Helio back in it. Helio back in it again. Or at least they have the opportunity to potentially get back in it. They're going to set one pass back. MST on that back row, hitting another Book of Moon. And now Wagmuffin has the floor. They're going to set one more, pass back. This is a very intense game. It's basically top deck mode. Helio keeping that card in hand. That means it's probably like Fault Roll, I would guess. Maybe E-Call. But I feel like if it's E-Call, you just set it and be like, you know, my win con now is drawing an X-Saber to then activate E-Call and bring more things back. I mean, I guess that would have been gotten punished by this Lila search here. But, yeah, I'm leaning more towards a Fault Roll in hand. Okay, yeah, that's the end of the game there, probably. Yeah, they just needed a Dark Engrave, it looks like. And that will do it. So, I mean, this could be Trag, I guess, but just a Crow, yeah. I mean, they could have heads up Crowed the Dark, but, like, I don't think that you do that against this deck. But, yeah, unfortunately, no Reborn from the top. But, yeah, Darkhold was there as well. So, it's, yeah, it just would have been a major uphill battle for Helio to come back from that. I think Helio could have won the match in game 2. I mean, we don't know how things would progress from that point, but it's just kind of rough that they lost that one. But, I mean, it's tricky. It's tricky figuring out exactly the lines with something like X-Sabers, because the deck can do a variety of things. So, yeah. But I think that does show the deck is very powerful. And, you know, it's the namesake deck of the format for a reason. But we are going to be seeing Blackwings versus Plants in the finals, and we'll see how that goes. CS says, have you seen they announced new Pumpkin support recently? I have not. But that's pretty neat. I mean, I'm not surprised that they did, because they've announced Gate Guardian support, you know, and they've released that stuff. So I'm not surprised. But it's cool. I mean, Pump Princess was old Pumpkin support at one point. So, yeah, I mean, it's cool that they keep going back to those old wells. I know that some people don't like that as much. They just want them to make new stuff. But they do also pump out a fair amount of new stuff as well. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, Gerbil says he milled next few cards and wasn't going to be able to deal with what Wagmuffin had, so Credit Counter Chaos wouldn't make a difference. Yeah, I'm not trying to say that like it would have been the game-breaking play. I honestly think that crowing preemptively there would actually not have been the move, even if you expected Chaos Orc, just because there are so many other graveyard interaction pieces that Plant Synchro has that like you don't want to waste it on that. But I was just saying like that would be the one way that you'd potentially survive that turn. But it was a move that like no one would really do. But that's, you know, it's the one thing that could have potentially helped them there. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of the times people get hung up on like watching games and watching replays where it's like, oh, you know, if this like crazy play had happened that like no one would ever think of in the moment because it loses to like 99% of cases, but it boxes up this one case, you know, then they would have won. And like, why didn't they think of that play? Right. But you got to understand that like, you know, a game of Yu-Gi-Oh is largely a game of betting on what your opponent has and what you will get, right? So, you know, oftentimes if you take a long bet and play around a certain thing that like, you know, you're really focused on, maybe that's what your opponent has and you manage to win that way. But a lot of the times the game is about hedging, right? And, you know, not necessarily playing for the outside possibility, but playing for the most likely possibility. And so I think that's what Helio was doing there, which I think was the thing they should be doing, right? I'm not saying they should have crowed. But I just wanted to get out, you know, ahead of that and say that, because I'm sure that someone would say, well, you know, if they had crowed the dark, then, you know, would have gotten back into it. But yeah, it's just like not something that they would have reasonably done, for good reason. A new Hulk is in like a new printing of Hulk that like, or like a new card that acts like Hulk, or like a new Crystron monster. I'm curious. I'm not up to date on like new releases for cards because I've been out of the game for a while, you know, besides like retro play. I do like to to keep like adjacent to like what's going on. Like it's always cool hearing the new developments in the game, even though I know some people do not like the new developments in the game. But you know, I think it's fun to keep up with. I'm like, you can call me a Yu-Gi-Oh boomer because I'm like playing these old formats and like promoting these old formats and stuff. But I always try and make clear that I'm not trying to promote these formats to the detriment of other formats, right? I think Modern is a perfectly valid way to play the game. And I know a lot of people do enjoy Modern. I mean, Modern is the format that most people play, right? We are very much in the minority here when we're talking about playing retro formats. But I also think it should be noted that like modern formats have their own charm. Like you can have a lot of fun playing modern formats, and I think it's something that people who did play the game at one point and maybe stepped away, I think it's worth trying out like every once in a while. Like if you think that you're like, oh no, I can't do it at all. I think that there are some modern formats out there that are very good and fun. So, but yeah, exactly as Gerbil says, you know, part of the reason why cards like Dust Shoot are so insane is because they take away the guesswork, so you don't have to make those bets, right? You do still have to make bets like later when they draw cards and stuff, but so much of the info is known to you now that you can play the next couple turns in a way that basically insulates you from everything that you need to be worried about. And you can just get so much advantage in that time period that like it's just such a frustrating card. Like I do not like Dust Shoot. Dust Shoot is my least favorite card in the game. I will say, and you know, I know there are some toxic cards that come later on. Maybe when I play with those cards, I will replace Dust Shoot as my most hated card. But it's just like, it's just so unfortunate in terms of card design. And it's honestly, in my opinion, more annoying than cards like Royal Tribute, cards like Confiscation, Forceful Sentry, Delinquent Duo, etc. Because at least those, you're drawing one new piece of information that your opponent doesn't know on your turn. So you can potentially play around with the bluffing there, right? Your opponent still knows most of what you're doing, so I'm not trying to say those cards are like the pinnacle of healthy card design. But I am saying that like they're better than Dust Shoot, where Dust Shoot tells your opponent everything that you've got on the turn that you're playing it. So unless you have a draw spell or something like that, you can't do anything that your opponent does not know, right? Like maybe you have two background, you set them in an order your opponent doesn't know. So if they get an MST, it's like, oh, which one do I MST? But you know, that's basically the extent of it. And it's just so frustrating to deal with. So anyways, Blackwing's taking game one. Sorry for not commenting on that. This is a particularly passionate sort of topic for me. Because I also think that like it's important when Yu-Gi-Oh players get tilted by certain cards to sort of talk about why we're getting tilted by those cards and see, one, if that's a reasonable tilt, see, two, like what can be done about it, and see, three, like, you know, if maybe that's a make or break for the format for you, maybe you don't play it, or if it's something that like, you know, actually there are ways to mitigate that and be less frustrating, maybe the format is still for you or not, right? But yeah, Lose Bell, I saw that message, don't worry, I wanted to react to it. It was a pretty disgusting game there, but that happens to Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Especially when Dust Shoot games happen, so, yeah, but like, and I think it's also important to note that oftentimes cards like Dust Shoot are not the make or break in like most games you play in a format with Dust Shoot in it, right? Even in the formats with 3 Dust Shoot, a lot of the times Dust Shoot is not the make or break in those games, and you can have healthy games where either Dust Shoot doesn't come up or it's not like as big of a problem as it is often. However, we humans, we like to do something where whenever something particularly annoying happens or particularly bad happens, the way our brains work is that we focus on that thing and we elevate that thing to a higher position of importance in our memory than other things, right? And so oftentimes the games you remember are the games where you get blown up by Dust Shoot, and like entirely. And so that can make the card seem a lot worse than it actually is. Now the card's still very bad, but I also think that's important to note when talking about this sort of thing. And Gerbil says, especially when looking at the bigger picture, a card that feels broken in format A might be all right in format B. Dust Shoot's always crazy, though. Yeah, and I feel like that's a constant that you see. Like in every format where Dust Shoot's legal, people are annoyed at Dust Shoot. You know, there's no format. I mean, maybe Yada format, like where, or like some of the DM formats where like Yada, like Dust Shoot's legal, but like, are you really going to play a card that can only situationally be activated when you have like all those broken cards at your fingertip that like you can just fill the deck up with? Maybe not. Maybe with further meta development, people will find out the Dust Shoot's broken there too, and you just load up on Dust Shoots. But like, realistically in those formats it's probably fine, but like every format with like a ban list afterwards, like Death Shoot's just so annoying. And you know, you can argue that like GOAT format survived with 3 Death Shoot for quite some time, and I think it will continue to survive. It's just like the fact that Death Shoot is annoying to them, the fact that Death Shoot's annoying to people in Edison, the fact that Death Shoot's annoying to people in Tengu, the fact that Death Shoot's an annoying card. It just really does stand out, and it just shows how bad a piece of card design that card really is. But yeah, and as PJ notes, like Death Shoot is weaker in this spread of formats, right? We're getting to the point where like decks are so powerful that, you know, even a Death Shoot is not necessarily enough to stop them, right? However, you know, just because it's weaker doesn't mean it's necessarily less annoying, right? Like I would say that Death Shoot's probably weaker in power level than some of the hand rips that I mentioned earlier. Like if your opponent Royal Tributes your entire hand, right? Like, you know, Royal Tribute's the stronger card than Death Shoot. And a lot of the times in things like Star Strike format, for instance, part of the frustration people have with it is that they will just Royal Tribute your entire hand turn 1. Doesn't happen every game, but when it does happen, it's very frustrating. And, you know, it's killer, right? Whereas like a Death Shoot getting flipped up, it's not as game ending as that Royal Tribute. However, it's important to note, Royal Tribute can only be used by one deck, and, you know, there are differences between the cards. But it's important to note that, like, even if it's weaker, its annoyance factor is not there, and oftentimes having to play a longer game because Death Shoot doesn't just win the game off that is just kind of rough. But yeah, as Gerbil says, Raiko hitting the judgment is painful. Sorry for just focusing on this topic, but yeah. T-King is rough because Hanzo can't search with Whirlwind. Also, you know, it can stop a synchro summon that Hanzo wants to play, which is annoying too. And hitting the judgment, which could have stopped something like Warning, is very rough. However, Reborn on the Shura is going to be pretty good here. You can Shura over the Raiko, bring out like a Vayu if they want to, and then go into a 5. And then after that gets negated by the Ryo. I guess they don't really have any good cards to go into with the Vayu after. I don't think Vortex is out, which is the level 5 Blackwing Synchro. I don't think that's out yet. But yeah. Yeah, Thunder King is a big staple in these formats. I don't think it's bad that it's a staple in these formats, though. I think that it is honestly a fine card for the most part. It can be annoying to deal with, but it's a relatively fair card, right? A lot of the times. Android coming down, so yeah, T-King negating that makes sense. You don't want to let them get more life and a monster on board. But now, Hanzo can potentially do other stuff here if they want to. But, I mean, I'm not sure what else they'd really be doing. I feel like the set monster is also a Vayu. That'd be my guess. But, yeah, Vayu can't be used with the graveyard like this. Yeah. It was summoned up by Shura. So, Shura negates the effect of it. So, that means that you can synchro with it while it's on the field if it was summoned up by Shura. Unless that ruling changed from Edison. It should be fine. But, yeah. Charge for Lila, so Lila can deal with the back row. Dandy getting out 2 tokens as well. Very good mill. I wish I milled that good. Goes in coming down. Oh, that's really good. So Dandy actually, awful mill here. It's funny. This is one of the few cases where Dandy's actually a bad mill here. Now, you know, Wyman's locked into Earth monsters, which is kind of rough. I mean, you can't bring out Spore. Can't bring out Lila. You just sort of have to wait for your opponent to eat into those tokens, which they don't necessarily have to do anytime soon. Avarice, though, can potentially give them a way back into this. You're going to put back Raiko, Ryo, Spore, Dandy, and the Sangan. That might have been all the monsters in their grave. You have all the monsters in their grave. But yeah. Yeah, as PJ says, goes in rivalry work as intended now, and that is not very fun. I mean, in this case, to be fair, like, even if there was a tribute monster that Wyman could have summoned out off the old rules, it'd have to be, like, Grandmark, because, oh, and a dad coming down. Oh, my goodness. Okay, yeah, that's, Banish, attacking with dad, and that's the end of the game. Oof, brutal. Blackwing's taking names in this game here. Yeah, even if Wyman would have set a monster to, like, act as defense here, it wouldn't have even mattered, because dad can just banish all of them, right? So it's like, oh, that is rough. Yeah. Brutal stuff. Yeah, Dad Reborn. And, yeah, I mean, I'm shocked Dad never got banned. It's just such a crazy card. But, I mean, I guess they're like, it's a fun bomb to drop. And this game's all about bombs when you get down to it. But, yeah. I hope you all enjoyed the X-Saber locals, though. We're going to be having an X-Saber monthly this month. in the YGO from Zero Discord server, so I figured I would run the locals just for that. I don't know if we're going to do it like later in the month, just because, you know, there's an X-Saber Format tournament that if it didn't just wrap up, it's like currently wrapping up. And so, you know, I want to give people a brief period of time where they can sort of relax and maybe make adjustments to their decks before we dive into the next monthly. But it will be happening this month, and I hope you all enjoy it. And again, as we mentioned at the start of the stream, in case you missed it, I should be able to make more videos now. I know I've said that in the past, but now I actually should have more time on my hands and have enough time to actually make some stuff, get out of Lightsworn format, get into the later 5Ds era, and that should be a lot of fun. So I hope you all join me on that journey, and I hope you all enjoy what's to come. And if this locals appealed to you, head on over to the YGO from Zero Discord server, linked in the description down below, so you can join the next one and potentially join the monthly tournament as well. And yeah, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff as well. And I hope you all enjoy and have a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy the daylight savings time if that went into effect for you. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.